Or we'll have you, but as a walk-on.
Mm.
Or we'll have you at 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Or, the kid blows up and he goes into the portal and he goes, hey, if you bring me back at 100%, and the coach is like, well, guess I got to bring him back at 100%, but we got to see where that slots in with their scholarship allotments, because maybe that doesn't fit. We needed this money for somebody else, right? It's a mess right now because you have all these older systems in place that are getting all these updates all injected all at the same time. So, we talk about the portal. The portal has essentially become a buzzword for all of this change taking place in a very small window. The portal itself, I think about it like it's just a database, right? There was no database before the portal.
Right.
You enter your name into the transfer portal now. Again, it used to have to go through your coach, and your coach then, it was on your school's compliance department, I think, to fax out transfer requests for the player to any institutions that the player may have been interested in, and then the school could contact you and see, hey, do you have anybody, blah, 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 we heard so-and-so maybe, right? So it was a very archaic 80s system that just needed an update. Now you have a database that has, contact information, and it's got, this is what I'm looking at, this is what I'm looking for, this is my player profile. It's just far more robust and the kind of thing that you expect to have access to nowadays. Now, this is not publicly accessible, this transfer portal. There are fan-run portals and media-run portals. I think one of my favorites I came across, and I don't know who runs it. I believe at one point it was called the Praise Portal, and it was a good one. They have done tremendous work on this over the years, but they're compiling essentially public reports into the transfer portal. Brad Schlossman at the Grand Forks Herald has maintained a portal for a while. Gopher Puck Live has maintained a portal for a while. But these aren't official. Now, maybe somebody's given them access so that they're going looking at it. I mean, I have no idea how they're compiling half this stuff. Schlossman's as plugged in as anybody in the game. But these are fan or media-maintained portals that you're seeing across all sports. We, the public, do not have access to the official transfer portal, and I have never even seen it. So now, for what it's worth, you go back to when the portal started. I believe 2021 was the first year of it in hockey. There were 304 guys who plugged their name into the transfer portal. I am trying to make an edit here. I'm trying to figure out exactly how many guys were able to find a place to play. So let me play with this real quick here. So back in 2021, you had those 300 some odd guys go into the portal. Let's sort that. This is a little live radio here. 304 in the portal, 269 found some place to play. Now, some of those guys went to the ECHL or the SPHL, or they went Division III, or they went Division II, or they went over to Europe, right? I mean, there's all kinds of ways. But that's how many players wound up with some team the next year, according to this portal that I'm looking at.
So
in
roughly
2022, 239 went into the portal in 2022. 257 went into the portal. 239 found a place to play. Again, some of these guys are ECHL. Some of these guys are ACHA, which is non-scholarship.
Right,
There's a couple of youth sports in there. There's a lot of guys who turn pro, right? 2023. Let's take a look at that. You had 281 go into the portal. In terms of guys who found any place to play, any place at all. And remember, with the COVID year, you had some guys who were thinking, wow, maybe I could do a fifth year of college hockey, and they wanted to kind of tip their toe into the water and see where they ended up. Instead, they wound up signing a pro deal somehow. 281 went in the portal in 2023. 263 wound up signing.
That's crazy.
And then in 2024, 348 names in this particular iteration of the portal, and there's a lot more that didn't go anywhere. 251 wound up signing somewhere or another, so about 100 guys did not have a new hockey team in any way, shape, or form coming into this year. So,
man, I tell you what. Yeah, I mean, well, and to your point, the portal's not the same for everybody because, like you said, there may not be a spot for you if you enter this transfer portal. Mm-hmm. And, you kind of go back to the NCAA, and the NCAA is like, hey, you guys wanted this. This is what you wanted, right? And you figure it out.
Yeah, it's felt like that at times where it's just like, all right, good luck.
Yeah. Right. You're an adult now. You're an adult now. So
now here's one thing that I'll point out too. A fair number of those guys who didn't end up anywhere, not all of them, but a fair number. And I mean, just looking at this right now, like I see a couple of names here where I'm like, okay, I know he ended up somewhere because I just looked him up a couple of days ago, right? Okay. They've got a couple of guys here that I'm looking at. They're CCHA guys, and it's like, no, they're still in Division I college hockey. So, again, all these are fan-run portals essentially, but I guess the cautionary tale that I have is that there's no lifeline once you leave the program now. Before you were still bound to the scholarship until you actually left the school.
Right.
Now it's bye.
So basically, if you put your name in the portal, you're done. Like, you can't hang on and wait for the next ship to arrive to jump off on. Like, if I say, hey, I want to enter the transfer portal, it's
right.
Your bag's over there. Your bag's over there.
Yeah, the school can come back and be like, listen, dude, we really want you. Northern Michigan had 2 guys enter the portal that wound up coming back. They had 4 guys on last year's team. If you look at their lineup card from March 9th when they played Minnesota State in their playoff final, 1 guy from that roster is still on the team. They have 2 guys who put their names in the portal and came back. Jeez. Now, that's up to them and the school to figure that out.
Right.
But the school has no obligation to bring them back at that point. They can. They did, obviously. And that happens sometimes. And here's something else to remember, too. We're getting into the last year of the COVID year. So the college hockey number of players available has been inflated for some time now.
That's also true. Yeah.
Because you've got all these fifth-year guys playing. I mean, if you go and look at the leaders in games played in college hockey, they cut down on the number of games that teams could play years ago, right? I mean, so you were playing like 40-something odd games in the regular season back through the 90s, but then they got rid of that. They cut it down to, I think it's 34 games now, 34, 36, official NCAA sanctioned contests. So you have all these guys with all these games played, and then it drops off, and then there's a bunch of them now. So you've had this big influx of these older guys with a ton of experience who are sticking around in college hockey, but the rosters haven't increased either. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of weird things going on all at the same time. And, that part of it is going to figure itself out after this year when you no longer have players who, have that fifth year, that COVID year of eligibility. You're going to see those games played numbers go down, and there's going to be a little bit less availability. You're probably not going to see, 350 guys going into the portal anymore in one go. But the transfer environment is probably here to stay. And it just is.
I mean, it has its
trying
place,
to pull up leaders
but it's like
gameplay.
Yeah, I mean it has its place, I think, for certain situations. And I mean, one of the things is the coach gets fired, yada yada yada, right? Or this player doesn't fit in.
Yeah, which is what happened to MU.
Right.
Well, he didn't get fired; he left.
Well, okay, either same thing, or leaves and goes whatever. So it has its place, but I think I don't know. In my opinion, sometimes it has a negative impact on college sports as a whole. But it's part of the deal. You just have to accept it and move on. And at the end of the day, if a player has a better spot to go somewhere, then if he's not committed, is it worth hanging on to? I guess is my question. So,
well, and that's the next question for a lot of these teams. They're sitting there just like, dude, if you want to go, we don't want somebody who's all in, who's not all in.
Exactly. Right.
I mean,
right.
You've got 1 foot out the door, dude. For you and for us, get 2 feet out the door.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of programs that are like that. And
right.
Across all sports, across the entire sports landscape, right? I mean, if you have a malcontent at the pro level who's just like, man, I hate it here. This town sucks. I want to go play somewhere where, this and that and blibbity blab. How many times does that guy get traded? And we never hear about it as a public either. Where they're, sometimes, oftentimes you hear about, the guy with a trade request. The trade request is like the last step where I'm going to try to put egg on somebody's face,
right,
to just get me out of here, and I don't care how it works out anymore.
Right,
get me out of
right.
here, please.
Right. Yeah, and
right?
it's a last ditch effort, like you said, to get the hell out of Dodge, and for whatever reason.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, but you got to think about it. Yeah. As soon as that rumor comes out, that player's pretty much 3/4 of the way out the door as it is anyway. So
right, because there's so many things going on behind the scenes that we never really see, and that's the kind of thing that anybody who thinks they know all of it probably doesn't.
Yeah, you're not even close.
So much
they're fooling themselves.
Yeah,
and to be frank, I don't think a lot of people would even care about a lot of the minutia. Right, the minutia is what I love, but I think for a lot of people, they'd just be like, "Oh, God, here he goes again."
Right.
Right.
Right. No, and I think that's
explain something away.
You're right. Right. You look at locally, Jacob Verana is one that kind of just sticks out to me a little bit because he was a guy that was traded to the Red Wings during the Anthony Mantha deal, and then he got on the Miami snow. Probably we're making an assumption that's what that was, but and then then he comes into training camp. Yzerman was going to keep him, but maybe against his better judgment, and then he comes in and separates his shoulder on the first shift of training camp, and I think I could just see Yzerman punching a hole through his office wall. But right then, we knew, Garrett and I talked about this.
Steve?
Yeah, well, but I mean, yeah, who knew? But right then, I told Garrett, I was like,
he's a pretty calm guy. Actually.
He really is, but I mean, when you
not too worked up,
cross the boss, I mean, that's like crossing Vince McMahon right there. So I mean, you just don't do that, and and so, and then Verana shortly thereafter came back. I think he played a couple games, and bada bing, he was gone to St. Louis. And so,
yeah, and I mean, I have no idea why he was or wasn't available or whatever. I mean,
he went through the substance abuse thing, which was the reason they had to hang on to him. But so that gave it 6 months.
I think it's there's so many little things, and again, right? I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there who look at this stuff and they're just like, oh, this is unheard of, blah 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 blah. But how many of us deal with with our own little things going on in our own personal lives?
That's
I mean,
true.
I had a situation, just in my private life last year that kind of started, right as we're getting into the season. So I go into the season just with my head gone, right? And so now I've got to go on the road with this team, be a functioning member of society, contribute at my job as much as I can, deal with this thing and my own, mental catastrophe going on. And at the same time, I have to go out twice a week and perform at a high level for an audience that doesn't know about this. And I don't want the audience to know
Right.
about this, right? It's not that I'm sitting here just like, well, you know, I don't want anybody to know, blah, 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 blah. No, I mean, people knew. It's a small town, right? You know, some people knew what was going on with me. But, you know, it was one of those things where when you turn on your radio or you tune in on your web stream, I am not why you're here. So I can't bring my stuff into my performance. I have to go deliver the goods. So how the hell do I do that? And that was tough. That was very difficult. So, you know, we think about that in our own lives, you know, bad day at the office, or, the kid puked on my shoe on the way out the door, or the dog jumped through a window and then, came back and peed on the rug or whatever. I mean, just all kinds of stuff that can happen in our own, the one-off daily lives that can ruin a whole day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yada, yada. These guys are subject to all those same trends and forces at the same age that we all were. And the difference is that they get talked about publicly.
That's right. And it's not
so
fair.
That's the weird part of all this.
Yeah, and it's not fair. And it's also not fair. And it's also not fair for me to say something about Verona that I have no idea about either. So that's my fault. But, and again,
I still can't find the career goals leaders in college hockey right now, or games played leaders. I'm still looking for it, guys.
You'll find it.
I will find this.
You'll find it. It'll be midnight, but you'll find it. But so it's not fair.
I'll wake
that
up in the middle of the night, Don, and be like, I got it.
You're gonna get a phone call here in a little bit, like, hey,
I got this.
Hey, I got it. Let's refilm. Let's do this.
We got to do the whole show again,
We got
guys.
Scrap it. Take it down.
The whole thing's a wash.
So
what was the line? Freaking thing sucks. We'll do it live.
We're doing it live, bringing it back. So, Matt, kind of bringing things a little bit full circle now. So, you've been doing Laker play-by-play since 2013, was it? You said, correct?
No. So I've been in the Sioux since 2016 now, and
okay.
I think my first year with the team might have been 17-18. Again, something else that I can look up. I'm having a problem with Elite Prospects right now, trying to pull up the all-time games played leaders. So
I've been having issues with that too. I was on the site while you were on the site, so I probably crashed your web.
Yeah, you guys
just
listen,
web browser.
EP is the greatest thing that has ever happened to hockey media. It's so good. I love EP so much.
It's fantastic, and then it's also the worst at the same time. And then it's like when you want it to work, you want to just throw your computer out in the middle of center ice.
Well, it's a total rabbit hole. So, yeah.
Well, it's like baseball reference for the baseball people as well too.
Right,
Which is another fantastic site. But so, Matt,
I believe my first game with the Lakers,
mm-hmm.
I think, boy howdy, this sounds about right. Did he play in that game? Was he with the team at that point? No, he wasn't. I think it was our trip to Alabama Huntsville in 2017. That would have been November 18, 2017. And November 17, 2017.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers won 3-1 and then lost 5-3 the next night. I'm pretty sure that was my first trip with Lake State.
Okay.
I think. And
what have you noticed, though, in the time that you've been there, with regarding the program itself?
Hang on. Hold on, Garrett. 1 second. Did you guys literally take a bus ride from Sioux to Huntsville, Alabama?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
you gotta be kidding.
That's actually terrible. I'm so sorry you had to endure that.
Yeah, we did that. So, yeah, I think it would have been 2017. That's my guess. Because the next year, we beat them twice down there. Steven Ruggiero was on that team, and I don't think that was my first trip to Huntsville because Ruggs was so funny. He was so good. I remember, I'm doing the game, and Ruggiero, who was a transfer from Providence, I believe, is where he started. He played for the U.S. under-18s a couple years before he made it to us. Mm-hmm. So Ruggs was suspended for game 1, and game 2 he wound up playing, and I don't remember why he was suspended. I think it was a hit in a prior series or something like that, or something like that, right? So anyway, so he comes up to the press box during the game where he's suspended. And Wes DeYoung, he was our I don't even know what the heck he was at that point, but he was running our laptop. He was tagging everything, and so this story is gonna take some interesting turns here. But I remember Ruggs comes up at the second period, and he immediately, in that thick New York accent of his, he just starts talking about what's going on down the ice. He's like, "Oh man, you got to chip that up the wall. You got to go harder than that. What are you doing? Not backpedaling right there. You got to take a better angle on that." And I mean, it's a little more salty than that. But and I remember Wes. Oh man, little old Wes. He punches him in the shoulder, and Ruggs looks at him. Wes is like my size. He's like 5'3", right? And I just see Wes, and I stop calling the game at this point, and I look over, and Wes looks at Ruggs. He's like, "Shut up! Shut the hell up!" And he points at the microphone laying on the desk in front of me, and Ruggs turns and looks at me, and he goes, "Oh, crap." He didn't say crap. And Wes just goes, "Get the hell out of here. Just get the hell out of here. Just get out of here." Kicked him out of the press box. Whole thing lasted 30 seconds. It was hilarious, right? Wes wound up being our equipment guy for a long time, and unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, and he's somebody that I still think about all the time. What a great dude. You were asking me a minute ago about kind of where the program is at, and I think number one. Let's start with what drew me to this program. I talked at the open of the show that, Lake State, we have an amazing history. We have an amazing story. When I look at some of the situations that I and we have been through since I've been here, some of my favorite people that I've ever met have been with this program. Wessie. Wow. Oh man, Wes, we still talk about him, and it's been like two years now, and we still talk about him all the time. And the little Wesisms, I remember our first bus ride out to St. Thomas. He'd found a website full of jokes that were just not funny, and he's sitting there with Hunter Deal, who's now the director of hockey ops over at UMass. And he's just torturing us with jokes, these awful jokes for like an hour. And we're sitting there just like, these are not funny. These are not funny at all. Wes thought they were great. He's like pounding the chair in front of him on this half-empty bus. And because we were just hauling equipment. And Hunter and I were like, we just got into it. It was so funny because he was so relentless in thinking these were the greatest jokes he'd ever found in his life. We're like, these suck, dude. These are not good. And he's like, "Oh, but I got a better one," He was such a beauty with that stuff, But like, I mean, and there's stuff that's I'm not going to get into it in public, but just the little things with Wes that were just he was always so funny and just such a good, loyal dude. Mike Guggen, who loved Wes a lot too. He's at St. Lawrence right now as what do they call him? It's like coordinator of hockey operations or something like that. Googs is just great. I love the guy. Vinny Petrangelo, who's over at Anchorage right now. Love that guy. What a guy. We were just chatting a little bit before our game the other night, and the Lakers actually go up there. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make the trip. To see the Vinster, but just great dude, Our coaches, DJ, Mike, Mike York. I get to ride a bus with Mike York. I remember it hit me one time where I was just like, I used to trade for that guy in NHL video games.
Right.
I'm riding a bus.
Right.
What the hell am I doing here? Right. I'm just some little kid on Warren or whatever. But Yorkie's great. Yorkie's so funny. Damon Whitten, our head coach, You know, that man probably has the greatest single record of anybody at the Great Lakes Invitational. He won it every time he played in it. He's won it as a head coach at Lake State. He won it as an assistant a whole bunch of times. Like, I think he's the most decorated person in the history of the GLI.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just an A-plus human being. I've got so much respect for Witz and the kind of program that he runs. You know, Bill Crawford, who's been, you know, the voice of the Lakers for 45 years now. You know, he's the guy that I do games with at home. 45 years. He was the AD here for a long time. There's just so many amazing people that have come through here. And, you know, I mentioned how I went through a rough year last year. You know, I'll give you guys a little bit of insight. You know, our captain, Grant Hyman, you know, just such a wonderful human being. He kept coming up to me and just talking with me, right? Cole Kraft, Ethan Langenegger, who's now at Clarkson. You know, he was our goalie last year. What a good player he is. You know, these guys would just come up and just have a little word or two for me, you know, and I hadn't told them anything. And at one point I stopped Hindi and I was like, you do know what's going on with me, right? He's like, yeah, we all know. Like, we all heard, you know, and just, you know, I get to go tell that guy's story a couple times a week and try to relate to people what a good human being that is, and good hockey player too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that part of it is why I love this program, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a professional, right? That's the personal side for me.
Sure. As
a professional, I think the track record of development here is phenomenal. You know, we've got a guy right now, one of our best players in Connor Milburn. And it's funny, the nickname the guys came up for him last year was Skilburn. He hates it. If you ask him about it, he'll be like, oh, God. Can you guys just knock it off? Like, I hate that nickname. There's no skill in my game at all. It's no skill. It's just all grit. It's all hard work, right? He hates that nickname, loathes it with an undying passion. Okay, 2019-20, 6 goals, 2 assists, and 25 games with Chilliwack. The next year, 2021, 20 games, 1 goal, 10 assists with Chilliwack. Assistant captain. 21-22, captain's Chilliwack, 36 games, 9 goals, 14 assists, right? Nothing special that you would look at. Our coaches got turned on to him because they watched him play and they went, dude, why is nobody on this guy? This kid is amazing. Like, what the heck? Why is nobody recruiting him right now? And it was because of the points, because his 200-foot game is phenomenal. He's 6'4". He skates so well. His straight line speed is amazing. Tough, gritty. Despite what he tells you, he has quite a bit of skill. You know, his brother Regan is really good too. He's a sophomore with us this year. Connor, his freshman year at Lake State, 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points in 34 games. Last year, 16 goals, 19 assists, 35 points in 34 games. He went nuclear. He is hotter than the surface of the sun last year, and averaged a league high over a point per game. I mean, the kid just blew up. And his coaches and junior at Chilliwack, they said, we think that scoring ability is in him, but that's not how we use him. We use him to lock down games. We use him to win draws. We use him to shut down their top line. We use him to kill games and win them. That's how we play him. And we think the scoring ability is there. We just don't really use him much that way. We've got other guys who are our top scorers. He's our shutdown guy. Well, now he's our shutdown guy who also scores a point per game. So, I mean, that's one great story. Diego Cuglietta led the nation in scoring a couple of years ago for us. Max Humitz wound up having a great season. Ashton Calder had a really good Laker hockey career and then transferred over to North Dakota and then went to Penn State too. This was true as of last year. I don't know if it still is or not. We had placed more guys in pro hockey than I think anybody else in Division I college hockey.
Oh, wow.
Now, we're not just talking NHL. We're talking, Europe. We're talking ECHL, AHL, SPHL. all these smaller leagues too. We have more graduates into professional hockey, guys getting paid money to play hockey somewhere. We had more than I think anybody else in the country. I think there's so many success stories where you look at guys who come in and they're okay prospects, and you look at them and you go, yeah, there could be something there in a couple of years, and then these guys blow up beyond your wildest dreams.
Right.
Ethan Langenegger was fantastic. Jakob Bengston was one of the more coveted UDFAs a couple of years ago and decided to stay here for his junior year, then went out to BC and almost won a national championship. Harry Roy, what a gifted goal scorer he is. Great young player. Just looking through at how many guys came through. Louis Boudon, he was a guy who was in the NA3 a couple of years before he came to us, and then Laker Lou, just blows up. I mean, by the end of his college career, I thought he was one of the most undervalued players in the country. He was so good all around. That's what we bring. We are an incredible place where players can come and grow into the best versions of themselves. In a community that loves you, in a community that rallies around you and wants you to do it for the Anchor. And we have one of the most recognizable logos in the game, that Anchor, that back in the 80s and 90s was the king of college hockey. That was us. We ran the place.
Yeah.
In 88, Lake State won the NCAA Division I national championship. Smallest D1 school to ever do it. In 91, Northern Michigan won the college hockey national championship. We won it in 92, should have won it in 93, and then won it again in 94. Wow, the UP ruled college hockey for about a 10-year window in there. And now, back in 21, it's the COVID year, right? Everything's shut down. Fans can't go to the games. And I remember, beating Northern Michigan in the WCHA final, the final WCHA game ever played, because the next year everybody split for the CCHA. What an odyssey it was for so many guys, watching Damon hold that trophy up. And it sucked because I had to travel separate from the team, so I missed what I thought was maybe the coolest moment of all. The greatest tradition in college hockey, the ringing of the victory bell, right? Whenever the Lakers win, they go outside and there's an actual ship's bell that the players only, coaches aren't allowed to ring it, fans aren't allowed to ring it, players only. They go and ring. And the team left earlier than I did, flying out of Minneapolis. So I watched it, over Facebook Live or whatever, as the guys get off the bus at Able Arena, and two local guys, Ashton Calder and Chase Gamlin, come out holding the Jeff Sauer Memorial Trophy. The two local guys, right? I mean, I think Gamlin was born like 10 months after the Lakers went to the national tournament for the last time before that. And they come off holding the trophy, and there's something like 500, 600, 700 people in the COVID year.
Oh, wow.
All ready to welcome this team back, because that's what this team means to us as a community. And they took the trophy. They led the players in the ringing of the victory bell in front of all those fans. That was such an amazing moment, and I wasn't even there for it. Ugh, it drives me nuts.
Well, your time's coming. I mean, and that's such a. It definitely answers the question of why you're up there. And man, I've known you now for 12, 13 years. You're a guy that has passion. You're a guy that I learned from because of that passion. And you and I are almost cut from the same cloth. We have that passion together, and we're a realist, right? And so that's what's propelled you in your career. That's why you're at where you're at. And this is your spot. Like this is where you're supposed to be. I think you're in that right place, and I love seeing it. I love seeing you succeed because you fucking deserve it. And one of the greatest guys I've ever met. So happy that you're up there.
And I'll say this.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, like just the college hockey aficionado, like you, dude. I always tell Don, like, I thought I loved, like, junior stuff, and I played, and I did the whole thing, and, like, I stopped when I was fit, but, like, I was a decent player myself. Like,
I can't skate, so you'll never see me
I
on the
knew
ice.
everything.
So
oh, my God. Like, I learned everything. I just learned a new side of myself that I never knew existed.
Yeah.
For the game, and like just having you on, Matt, was just awesome to begin with.
It's an honor for us.
And now I want to actually watch everything Lake State right now, and I'm sure that other people will as well.
Yeah.
So the Lakers, you can catch the live audio on yesfm.net whenever we play. LSSULakers.com is the official website of Lake State, and then you can also catch the entire CCHA at MidcoSportsPlus.com. It's the official video streaming partner of the CCHA. I believe it's $24.99 a month right now. So that's the official hub for everything in the league, including replays of the Laker Hockey Show, which air on there. Guys, I really appreciate hearing that too. I mean, I've felt this way for a long time about being here. This is home now. And, this town has embraced me, and it hasn't always been easy. There's been some speed bumps along the way. Like I said, last year sucked personally. It was horrible. I mean, I'm not gonna beat around the bush. It stank up the joint. Let's put it that way. But this community rallied around me too, and that team rallied around me, and those guys were here for me. I'm grateful for that, and I feel that I am in the right place because I have something to contribute. I don't want to do this just to do it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm talking about. Right.
Yeah, I'm not here to just I want to have something to contribute to my community,
right,
in my professional life, and I've been able to do that here in a really effective way, and I'm grateful for that opportunity and the trust of the people around me.
Right. It's loving what you do, man.
Now I have to go deliver the goods.
Right. It's loving what you do, and that comes from passion, and that's just it's not easy to do because you don't always have it every night.
No,
you do in your heart.
Right?
You do in your heart. It's just there's just some nights you just don't have it, man. It is what it is.
I didn't feel at my best this weekend against Northern Michigan. Strangely, like it was.
Well, you were probably nervous coming out of the pod, so I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
He knew that he was going to get grilled.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
I get it.
There was just something where I felt it where it was slightly off, and I didn't. Maybe that played out over the air. Maybe it didn't. I have no idea. I also know now, this is a lesson that as a broadcaster, it took me a while to learn. I'm not always the best judge of things. I have a mental image of my performance in my head. It's funny because I'll go back and I rarely go back and listen to my own tape, but the few times that I have, I've gone back and I'm like, wow, that's not what I remember at all. It's nowhere close. Right. It's either I thought this sucked, this was amazing, or wow, I thought I was the Cat's pajamas, and instead I'm Cat Dookie.
You're Chris Collinsworth. I mean, it happens,
Yeah, I mean, but it is a live performance. Broadcast is a live performance, and what we're doing here, guys, this is a performance. We're putting on a show for each other, for ourselves, and for the audience. Which, by the way, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Here on Raising the Banner. We greatly appreciate it. But, it's us taking our knowledge, skill, ability, training, all the rest of it, and trying to roll it together into something that you're going to enjoy, ultimately. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird way of thinking about it sometimes. Broadcasting is live theater. It really is.
Yeah.
And we don't get do-overs like in theater, like in a game. So we try to capture this drama as best we can. And in play-by-play, you have to come up with your words as they're happening, but you also have to tell this overarching story structure of what's taking place. It's a lot to blend in all at one time, and the best make it look so damn easy. And I hope I'm not sitting here going, whoa, I'm the best. I hope I'm doing it effectively. And I think I am based on the feedback that I get. But if I'm not, at the same time, I want that same community in town and that same audience to tell me, like, how was I tonight?
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this, Matt. You wouldn't be a 12-time MAB award winner if you couldn't do that. So, yeah, and I know that's a long way.
Somebody remembers those. I still only have like 2 of them. I don't know where all the others went.
I think I have 2 of them as well. I think I only won 3, which I don't really care. But it was still a crowning moment, and I think it's those of us that actually went on to receive those awards have actually went on into radio, and they're actually doing this professionally. So that I think it's a measure of talent. I really do. I'll argue that all day long. I will say that, and all of us, even on this podcast, and everybody else that's gone after us or whatever, if they've won an MAB, they're in professional radio of some sort. I decided not to go that route.
Capacity.
Right. So
yeah. I think what blows my mind too, and this is us getting, back in my day, right? As
back in my day.
I shake my cane at you, hey, you shunnies don't remember,
We put real sugar in our coffee back then. Shit.
Yeah, right. We were all together at Oakland in borderline the same time frame, right? I got there in 2008. Garrett, I think you were the last one there, probably through 14, 15, something like that.
Yeah, I was there 13. I was there very late into 12, and then 13, 14, part of 15. I graduated in 2015.
Yeah. So we're all, we all had this kind of overlap in this really crazy time at our college radio station. There was so much friggin' good talent. Talent was unreal. Mm-hmm. Like to quote Goody and Shoresy, talent's unbelievable. I mean,
it was though. I mean, it was no joke. I mean, we had.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on about it for hours. It's just like so down.
Right. I know. It was.
But I mean, it was such a collaborative process too. I think we learned more than anything. We learned how to create, and I think that's the future of the broadcast industry, college spaces, and we've got the LakerCast studios at the Kenneth J. Schuldeis Library. Mark Boucher, our library director, the loudest library director in the world.
There you go.
Great dude, love him. He basically, it was his pet project to take a back room at the library and turn it into a full multimedia studio where you can come as a student, faculty, staff, whatever. You can come in, you can just create multimedia experiences on this campus. That our college radio station that we were at, this is the future, I think, of broadcast. This is where it starts. It's not the end point, right? I mean, but it's the starting point. We learned, and I learned this at my high school station too, at Warren Cousino. We learned not what to think, we learned how to think. We learned how to create and make things and use our imagination to come up with a concept, and then we're given the tools to go take that concept, whatever the hell it was, and make it something real. That was the most useful thing in my career because now, I've had very little actual hands-on one-on-one formal training with people. A lot of what I've had to come up with has been essentially looking at, okay, what are the people who are doing this well? What are they doing? Okay, how can I steal that? how can I do what
how can I harvest that? Yeah, how can I harvest that? How can I make that a real thing for me?
100%.
Yeah.
So I think spaces like college radio, when it's done right, I think there's a lot of places that don't quite get it right. They want to train you. Here's the button that you hit. Here's the song to play. Here's what you talk about. Da 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 da. I think when you're at a young age and when you're just starting out, that's not what you need. You need creativity. You need to be in a space that lets that flourish. We had that at Oakland. They have that now at the Kenneth J. Schuldeis Library on campus. I think that is where the future of our industry gets built in spaces like that.
Yeah,
go ahead, and then what's great Well, and then what's great about it, Matt, is then too, you can pave your way forward and leave a legacy that I think is bigger than yourself. And I think that's a very beautiful and important thing, right? Because what we did when we were younger, now you're leaving that legacy for a new generation of Laker fans, aspiring Laker broadcasters to come in and take in that passion, right? You've gravitated towards that program. The Laker hockey program has given you so much now, and giving that time and energy to those kids, that's going to be really the end result. At least I would hope. Obviously, we all have different thoughts and things like that, but I think that's truly what I would say. At least that's how I would conceptualize it.
And Garrett, I think though that gets fed then by the experiences that we all shared previously, right? Hey, listen, if you're listening right now, I told you this is where we shake our fist at a cloud and we go back in my day, right? But we're waxing poetic here, but yeah, it's true. We all built something that fed each other, and that's a legacy in its own way, right? I don't have this skill set that lets me do what I do now with any efficacy if I don't have the stops along the way at the spaces that I did. I mean, it's not, it ain't going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm different for what I experienced. Good, bad, right, wrong, otherwise, right? Because there was some good, there was some not so good in there. It's shaped me and led me to a point where I feel a conviction being a part of this program. And someday that will come to an end in some way, shape, or form, right? I mean, nothing lasts forever. I will probably not be doing this job in 25, 24, right? I mean,
that's right.
Probably not. One
never
way or
say
another.
never.
Yeah, right. I mean, we never know. I mean, maybe they clone me like Dolly the sheep, and they just keep throwing out different Matt Pockets, right? I mean, I don't know. But part of the legacy too is what we did with each other, and our ability to learn and create and drive each other forward. However we use that in life. And that's led us in a weird full circle kind of way back here today on this program. I think I'm a big believer that life makes sense. It might not make sense to you because of limited information and certain perspectives that you don't have access to, right? There's certain things that you will never know and could possibly never know, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But they still exist, and they're still acting on the world around us. This is something that I've had to really learn in the last probably year or so. There are things there's information that you don't have access to that is still acting on your life. And, those are things that, you build what you can with it. You do the best you can with what you're given. But I think life makes sense. So even if your path gets very illogical at times, there's a certain logic to it. Now, that logic might be insane, but it can be there, right?
That's right.
There's good things that have happened in my life that make all the sense in the world. There's some stuff that's happened where it's like, God, that's nuts. How the hell did we get here? There's a sense somewhere, even if we can't see it. We're not privy to that information at the time. So, there have been tough things that have happened to me in my career and life that have led me here to being who I am, and this point in my life where I think I have something to give to this Upper Peninsula community and the District of Algoma too. And I wish some of those things didn't happen, but they did, and that's led me to a point now where I have an appreciation for it, and I don't spend a lot of time telling people that I appreciate this. I just want to show them with quality work, and to me that's the standard. Bring the thunder every night that mic goes on. Let's bring our best. Let's have fun. Doing something that draws us all together in this time and space. That's what I love about sports. It can bring us together. It's this weird, great unifier for people.
Absolutely.
In a way that few other things are. We get to be a part of something together that we have something to contribute to, and that's what I love about a program like Lake State. But it also contributes to us. that's the beautiful part of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And let's embrace that. And it gets weird sometimes.
I know.
Embrace the weird.
I know. Yep.
So
Matt, let me ask you this: going forward, we like to talk about prospects here, and the NHL and stuff like that. What's your schedule look like? Is this something you'd like to do with us a little bit more? I wouldn't say every week. I don't know if you could commit to that, but
yeah. Well, there'll be times where I'll be sound asleep at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock on a Sunday because we're coming off a bus from Minnesota.
Like an old fart.
Yeah, I don't know. For example, I have no idea how we're getting to Augustana yet. I might be taking an equipment bus over for all I know.
That's
like
totally
a 15-hour drive.
Yeah.
I remember back in college when Oakland played in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Ross McGeelsey, who I think he might be at the Guardian now, he was with the Oakland Post, the student paper. He did that drive 13 and a half hours from Rochester, Michigan to Sioux Falls, South Dakota in a PT Cruiser. So,
and that reminds me of my trip to Tulsa. Remember my Cavalier for the
yes. game. Oh, that's wild.
Oh, the Chevy Cavalier. That brings me back to the early college. Oh God, that brings me back to the early college days. That is beautiful.
Yeah,
I love
just
that.
Me and my thoughts for 14 hours.
You know what though? But it's those road trips that somehow just stand out in some ways. Where
I will never forget that. I will never forget that as long as I live. And that was the first time that I ever did a live broadcast. Where Pocket was back in the studio, 14 hours from me, and I'm sitting next to Scott Dunford. Dunny was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And this gentleman, Matt knows really well, Jeff Haxton, comes over and he's like, "Hey man, I'm not going to do the Oakland.
Dog.
I'm not going to do the Oakland game. Do you mind if we just plug into your system and we'll just take your feed?" I'm like, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Plug right in. He's like, "Okay, you'll be on the live feed for the Summit League." I'm like, "Oh shit." And I was like, so I'm like, I've never called a live game before, so I instantly shit like 3 chickens in the studio. But dude, you know what though? This guy right here, Matt Pocket, was the one feeding me in my ear. He's like, "Dude, you got this. You got this. You got this." And it just
got this dog.
Yeah. It just snaps. And
about the dog too. The last time that I saw him, I was shooting darts in a bar in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, with him and Wayne Otto, World B, who sadly is also no longer with us.
Oh no way! Really? I did not know that.
Listen, so you met World?
I did.
World was something else.
World
was okay. So for those who have never had the pleasure of encountering World B showed up one year at the Summit League tournament, writing for some website that was publishing like maybe twice a year, and instantly a legend. Yep. Right? He was an Oral Roberts tennis player back in his college days, who suddenly just became the Summit super fan, but a media member. He ran a website called GameWornUniforms.com. He was just a merch collector. He had a fleet of like 5 trucks. He was running around grabbing stuff. He had seats from the Palace. He had stuff.
That's awesome.
I had him on one of my shows in the Sioux. Nobody knows who this guy is, right? I mean, there is no possibility that anybody in Sault Ste. Marie has ever encountered this man. I had so many requests to get him back on. I asked him 2 questions and then cut him off, right, at a half hour because World dominated the show. It was amazing. It was the greatest thing ever, right? So World, back in, 18 when UMBC knocked off
Virginia
in the NCAA tournament, the first 16 seed to ever beat a 1 in the men's basketball tournament at the Division I level. So World I'd called him because I was running the Summit League podcast back then, and World is like, "Oh, I'm on a bus right now with this high school, this prep school out of Chicago. Their assistant coach, he's a close friend of one of the assistants over at Maryland, Baltimore County. So, we got some tickets. I'm on team bus right now." I'm like, "So one of the coaches for this prep school who knows one of the assistants at one of the schools at this site?" He's like, "Yeah, that's basically it." I'm like, "And you're on their bus?" He's like, "Yeah." Oh, it's great. Oh, the Bellas here are just all awesome. That was his name for every team, the Bellas, right? He's taking pictures as UMBC is just thrashing Virginia around, and I'm just sitting there like, how the hell is this guy here? Of all days, for a 16 to be the one for the first time, it had to be while he was there. If he wasn't there, it wouldn't have happened.
You're probably right.
So I'm in this basically. I'm shooting out messages to a bunch of people like, can you believe this? Can you believe this? This guy is here, right? And Dave Brower, I think it was, who was the. He was really the top dog in the communications department at the Summit League. Him and Greg Meddy.
Yeah, Greg Meddy. Greg Meddy's my buddy. Yeah, Greg's a great guy.
Love both of those guys. Yeah.
Yep.
And so Dave is like, boy, you think that's something? Can you believe he was also at Michigan Stadium in 2007 when App State beat them? I'm like, no way. And sure enough, he shoots me a picture, and like it's the other side of the stadium. And it's of the Appalachian State student section, and they're in like the third row in this grainy, like 16 megapixel
that's crazy
camera shot. You can't see his face, but it's him. It could not be anybody else. And you're like, how the hell did he get in there? So I asked him about it. He's like, oh yeah, that was a great trip. Oh, I knew, this guy, he had this jersey, from 1976 or whatever. And, he was a senior at Appalachian State. So I just hitched a ride with him as he came up for the ball game. And, it was great. It was great. Like, what the hell? Oh, this guy somehow has a connection to anywhere.
Right.
World B was one of those guys that you just, once you met him, you never forgot him, and there was always another great story.
So, man, I guess we'll wrap it up with this. I want to have you on again as soon as possible.
Let's do it.
Let's stay in touch. We could talk. I could talk to you for. We could. This podcast go for 12 hours if we wanted to.
We could probably do a whole week's worth of.
Yeah,
we could.
We could probably do a whole week's worth of series.
We could. Yeah. But just chat with you, man. Your knowledge of hockey. This is what we love, and this is what we want to have on here. So thank you for your time tonight, and doing this on a Sunday night. Again, we don't have to do it on Sunday. If another day fits you, just let us know. But I really appreciate having you on and your knowledge base with this show. That fits our fan base too. Garrett, awesome as well, as always. And folks, join us again for Mr. Matt Pocket. Thank you very, very much, sir. Go Lake State. I hope you guys do well this year. We'll be watching you. We'll be keeping up with you.
Real quick, we guys, upcoming schedule, what's it looking like for the Lakers?
Yeah.
Well, we've got an interesting slate this weekend. We're doing a home and neutral with Ferris State in CCHA play. So on Friday night at Taffy Able Arena, 7:07, tickets still available. You can catch it on Yes FM or at Midco Sports Plus. The Lakers take on the Ferris State Bulldogs. And then this is going to be the first college hockey game ever played in Traverse City. It's the Superior Ice Showdown Traverse City takeover at Center Ice Arena, 6:07 on Saturday.
Wow.
I don't think there are tickets still available on that.
Well, there's only like 45 tickets possible, so I get it, but yeah.
I think it's about 1,500, and the place is going to be jumping.
That's awesome, man.
It's going to be great.
Are you going to be up Are you going to be up there in the in like the little broadcast booth that they have up there? The little perch. Awesome. That's killer. I love it. Good for you.
Yep. So Saturday is going to be a long day because we got to get down there early and set up our infrastructure. The Lakers are on the road in Alaska Anchorage on November 23rd and 24th. And then on the 29th and 30th, they're at the Twin Cities to take on St. Thomas. This is the third straight Thanksgiving where we're playing at St. Thomas. I don't know who hates us, but
at least it's in Bloomington.
Stop. I'm begging you. Stop.
Oh, that's the one with the ice-ass cold arena. That's right.
Oh, it's frigid. Oh, it's so cold in there. Now they're getting a palace right after they get to the NCHC. I'm not happy about that, by the way. Now, that being said, one of our players, Carter Batchelder, his family fed the whole team last year. Gordy Dayfield, who played goaltender for us a couple of years ago, his family fed the whole team. Gordy was here my first year, 16-17. And his family hosted the entire team 2 years ago. The Batchelters hosted us last year, and I think they're going to host us again this year. So super grateful to them, and they put on an awesome meal for the whole team. By the way, fun side note here, Batchelder, Luke Lewandowski, who was graded out by Central Scouting a couple of years ago, back in 2021, and Nate Schweitzer, 3 Minnesota Mr. Hockey finalists, all on the same team. So there you go.
That's awesome.
So we get St. Thomas over Thanksgiving, and then we're home against Bemidji State, and then on the road at the Mayo Clinic Health System Event Center at Minnesota State mid-December to wrap up the calendar year. So
awesome.
A lot of road games. We've only got this Friday against Ferris. We're doing the neutral site game, and then we're home against Bemidji at Able Arena. So
awesome.
Get your tickets. Able Arena is a cool building to see it. When you hear the goal horn, it is an actual ship's horn.
Nice.
Ripped out of a boat that was getting scrapped. We put it up in the rafters, and there's are working it. So
I played a tournament there once when I was a kid for my travel team. Yes, I remember that horn. I hated that thing only because we did get blown out in the final.
Oh, there you go.
It's a banger. Yeah, when you're playing against that goal horn, I can imagine it's the worst feeling in the world. When you're playing for it, it is primal. Oh, it's the GOAT.
Awesome.
It's the GOAT.
Well, Matt, hey, thanks again,
awesome.
my friend. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us, Matt. I'll let you get back at it. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in to Raising the Banner. Talk to you next week. See ya.